The fact that I even know these names and these teams speaks volumes. Because this time last year, I didn't know. What is good? What is good? Ladies and gentlemen, I am Seven Blackman, and this is The Blackman Show, a place where we can dissect the news with a little bit of 7 cents, sponsored by the good people at theblackmanshow.com. So make sure you smash that like button like your first name was The and your last name was Hulk. Either way, let's get it. So, I mean, everybody's talking about the latest that's been happening with the WNBA, and I think for all that it's worth, it's all got to be a good thing, because I think we're in that stage of life where no publicity is bad publicity, especially in the social media era. So, with that in mind, I think the WNBA is doing exactly as they need to be doing in terms of getting new people to talk about them, new eyeballs looking at them, new viewership, all new sponsorships, all that good stuff. So all in all, I think the conversation that's happening around it, whether it's good or bad, whether it's about the main star, who is Caitlin Clark, or all the other minor role players, if you will, I think all of that stuff is a good thing, because that ultimately helps to promote the league to be what it should be, and that's hopefully a league that can stand on its own and not being subsidized by the NBA. Now, if we're just looking at the numbers and how things are coming out for the teams, people like Angel Reese and all the others who are just coming in, and all the sassy ones who got something to say, they can talk and say all they want to say, but the fact remains that the numbers are what the numbers are. And shout out to my brother for giving me some of this information. So he said the Sky were averaging about 6,000 to 9,000 viewers per game, or actually, I think those were attendees, but 6,000 to 9,000 attendees per game, right? And that's about the same as it was last year. Actually, the most recent numbers I saw said that it was about 7,800 last year was around the average, and this year it's around 8,700. So they've risen about 10-20%, something like that. Whereas with the Indiana Fever, last I saw their numbers for last year, they were averaging about 4,500, and this year they're averaging 17,000. 17,000 in attendance. So that in itself says quite a bit. That speaks volumes. And you can look at what Indiana has done since then. Well, what have they done? I'm glad you asked. They drafted the top player in women's, and actually in all of basketball, the top scorers, top player, however you want to look at it. She was the woman who was getting all the press. Now, granted, there were all these other teams, the team of South Carolina, the LSU women, and all the other teams throughout the tournament, of course, that were getting their levels of viewership and support. But by far, there was only one individual who was getting as much support as she got, and that was Caitlin Clark. And it just so happened that Indiana, once the draft came around, Indiana Fever drafted Caitlin Clark number 1. As such, she has a following. She's got millions of people following her on different platforms, and at the same time that's going on, she's got to start a season. So she starts the season. Well, you can't be flying coach with millions and millions of people looking at you all the time, because now millions of people are trying to be wherever you are. So now we have to fly private. Now that helps to boost things up for that team, and hopefully for other teams around as well, because there are certain other smaller stars, not the same level of stars, but smaller stars who are also on the other teams, who are also drawing their levels of adoration and fanfare, however you want to take it. But that's not to take away from who the main star was, and the main star is and was Caitlin Clark. Now, I get the fact that it's unfortunate that, because I presented the facts as best I could, just to show that, one, she is not the top scorer in women's basketball. She's just the top scorer in NCAA basketball. If you look at the top scorer in all basketball, well, I've already talked about that, link in the description. So, but if you are looking at what she has done for women's basketball as a whole, it's undeniable. It's undeniable. And I have to say that while she's coming into the league and bringing a new, fresh sets of eyes and a new viewership to the sport in general. I can understand people being mad on both sides of the argument in terms of how she's being treated in her welcome to the pros sort of debut. I think last they showed her team wasn't really doing that well. They were on a losing streak. And when, she's been getting her hard knocks in her introduction to the league. And as a result of her hard knocks and all of that, now we're getting the backlash. And I don't mean backlash in terms of, now there's going to be backlash in terms of the teams and the team players or players on either team and whoever decides to be the enforcer or the Bill Laimbeer or the Dennis Rodman of their team. Whoever decides to be that person of course is going to be lambasted however you look at it for, putting hands on the star or how dare you defend this person and try to keep them from scoring. So I get that. And that's to say that Caitlin Clark's walk into the NBA or WNBA should not be a cakewalk. But at the same time, I know that these people are going to be looked at in the poor light. But in that same sense, I'll say that these women, while they're being looked at in whatever light they're being, or these people, women, while they're being looked at in whatever light they're being looked at, these women should be playing at the level that they think that they should be playing at to put out the best performance onto the court every single night. And to that end, you're going to have a lot of people who are looking at that game and watching the game. And to that end, you have a majority male audience. I mean, let's not get it twisted. WNBA, even though it's a women's league and a women's sport, majority of your fans are dudes. And now we're to a point where it seems like because the WNBA is getting talked about so much, Now, as it's gaining notoriety, some women are starting to say, well, you can't talk about it. You can't say anything about it unless it's something positive, which is really weird and a really weird space to be in because that's kind of how we've been. That's kind of how we've been. And I mean, for the past couple of years in this whole modern woman space, they kind of was highlighted by Kevin Samuels. But in actuality, this is something that is still taking place every single play, everywhere. It's like you can't give anybody any bad news. You can't say what needs to be done better. You can't make any suggestions. You just have to accept it as it is. And then, and if it's trash, let's just accept it as it being trash. And then when it starts to do better, don't even acknowledge that it's doing better because what you're actually doing is you're saying that it was trash before. So it's like, well, can we win? Can anybody win in this thing? You know what I'm saying? How does anybody win in all of this? And I will be the first one to say, while Angel Reese, as cool or whatever she is as a player and as a personality, I'll be the first one to say, well, ma'am, you weren't even the first one that was drafted into the Chicago Skies team. You know what I'm saying?
It all started from the national championship game, and I've been dealing with this for 2 years now. And understanding, negative things have probably been said about me, but honestly, I'll take that because look where women's basketball is. People are talking about women's basketball, but you never would think that we'd be talking about women's basketball. People are pulling up to games. We got celebrities coming to games, sold out arenas, just because of one single game. And just looking at that, I'll take that role. I'll take the bad guy role, and I'll continue to take that on and be that for my teammates. And if I want to be that, and I know I'll go down in history, I'll look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, the reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person. It's because of me too, and I want y'all to realize that.
But that's just the thing, though. See, you can't claim to be okay with being the heavy, then at the same time cry victim or don't even decide to be there on the spot when people want to ask you questions about the very thing that you say that you're okay with being. And that goes for Angel Reese and Chanity.
After the fever
I
score,
didn't answer no Caitlin Clark questions.
did she say anything to you?
I don't know what she said.
What'd you say to her?
I didn't say anything.
That's enough.
So if you say that you're going to be okay with being the heavy or being the bruiser or being whatever, being the female Bill Laimbeer of the WNBA. So you say that you're okay with being that, then stand on it. Stand on it. Don't say that you're okay with being this and you're okay with the role and all that, and then when people start asking you about the very role that you say that you want to be in, now you claim victimization. Now you're saying I'm harassed. Now you're saying I can't be a public servant or a public figure, because that all puts into a space that whole thing of saying that you all don't want equality. You don't want equality of treatment. You want equality of outcomes, which isn't the exact same thing, because guys had to go through being a public figure. Charles Barkley, I'm not a role model. I'm not a like he would say that all the time, even though he was in the space. And after a while, he took that on. Mean Joe Green, same thing. You have to go through those rights to a certain degree to help solidify the future that you say that you want. But you can't start a YouTube that's still being operated out of somebody's garage and say, okay, well, you're the CEO of YouTube. And at the same time, while YouTube ain't making a dime, say, all right, well, I'm the CEO, so I demand I need a golden parachute of at least $5.7 billion. I need to have my normal pay to be somewhere in the range of about $7 to $8 million a quarter. And then on top of that, I need to make sure that I have a company car. And, what are you talking about? The company ain't making no bread yet. Can you imagine Wojciechowski saying some shit like that before Apple even got started? Steve Jobs talking about, well, yeah, let me get all the money because the company ain't making nothing yet, but yeah, I need to get, what are you talking about? And everybody else who joins in, you have to join in with the understanding of, well, we're still working on this thing. Here's the thing, let's be real. It's not like women are coming from high school and going straight to the WNBA. So most of the women in the WNBA likely have degrees. And I could have swore all y'all women supposed to mature and be smarter than us and all this good stuff. How come don't none of y'all know how businesses work? Or you only know how business work when you're an entrepreneur and when you're a bad chick and when you're a boss chick and when you got your own. But when you're working for somebody, all of a sudden you don't know how business works. You don't know where the money's coming from. All you know is you need more of it. Okay, sure. A lot of us feel that way. How do you propose getting it? So as much as you may think the people are tuning in to watch you, again, the numbers don't lie. You went from 7,800 on average last year to 8,700 on average this year. That's not a huge jump. I mean, it is a jump. Granted. But they not if they were tuning in to watch you, wouldn't they be watching you? That's all I'm saying. So if they were tuning or coming to the games, I mean, the arena that you're in has a 20,000 capacity. That's why it makes it difficult to look at the argument that was taking place between Stephen A. Smith and Monica McNutt when she said that he could have presented the information, or he could have been supporting the WNBA 3 years earlier than he did.
All right.
Who talks about the WNBA? Who talks about women? Who talk about women's sports more than First Take?
Stephen A., respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to.
Well, nobody cared about the game. Let's be real about it. Nobody cared about the WNBA like that. Because if y'all did, y'all would have been watching. So to get on to TV and to talk about, well, you could have been doing this, you could have too. You could have been promoting it to your people. You could have been, and maybe you were, but my point is there weren't enough of you out there who were doing it. So to try to make it seem like Stephen A. is supposed to be the person to be the spokesman for all of WNBA news and media, that just is an unfair place to kind of put him in, if you ask me. But the fact is, as we're looking at this whole thing with the WNBA and all that stuff, look, just the Chicago Sky versus the Indiana Fever, right? The fact that I even know these names and these teams speaks volumes. Because this time last year, I didn't know. And I did know the Chicago Sky from Chicago. So I knew the team in our city, or the city I'm from. But yeah, I didn't know others. I don't know other. Maybe the Liberty, the Aces, Sparks. I think I'm done. right there. Done right there. Those are the teams that I know. You know what I'm saying? So I learned the fever this year. You know what I'm saying? But let's just talk about this, right? So you've got Angel Reese who plays for the Chicago Sky. Then you got Caitlin Clark, who plays for the Indiana Fever. They played against each other. Great game. Indiana finally won, got their third win of the season. You know, in a tight game that was 70-71 at the end of it. But like I said, Indiana's games are sold out. The Sky doesn't have that. The Sky's games aren't sold out. I mean, they have more sales, but their games aren't sold out. And I'll say this. I think I was wrong. I think I was wrong in my earlier assessment of trying to say that Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark were like Magic and Bird of their day and their time and all that. No. Caitlin Clark, for what it's worth, for all intents and purposes, is the Michael Jordan of her era. Now, slow down, easy, easy. What I mean by that is the fact that, I mean, just look at her scoring. Look at her scoring ability. You know what I mean? Look at her ability on to draw in crowds and to bring people in. And I mean, that in itself brings people to the sport. Jordan was the draw. I mean, there were tons of stars in the NBA before Jordan, but Jordan was the focal point. He became the focal point in a league that was that was meandering. It was middling at best at the time. And I'll also say that she plays where it seems like she doesn't have any support, or not as much support, or not a lot of support, just like Jordan did when he first came into the league. He didn't have a whole bunch of that, you know. So to me, the similarities are there. And I'll also offer the fact that Caitlin, when she was in college, she was scoring on everybody like crazy. Again, she has all of the scoring championships except for the main one, which is held by a black woman, but we don't talk about that. Again, you can check it out right here. But at that same time, she has all of the scoring records. So people in the WNBA probably saw her scoring like that in the NCAA and saw her coming and were like, you're not doing that here. You can do that all. You're not doing that here. And so they knew what it was. Jordan wasn't scoring in college like he did when he got to the NBA. When he got to the NBA, he started dunking on everybody, and folks was like, "Who is this? What is this?" Like he was doing this thing a little bit in college. I mean, quite a bit, but not nearly what he was doing when he got to the NBA. And when he got to the NBA, he took over. And so people who were already there were like, wait, we've been here doing this thing. Who does Jordan think he is coming in here doing all this? Foul, knock him out. I mean, have any of you ever heard of the Detroit Pistons? Have any of you ever heard of the Bad Boys? Have you ever heard of somebody named Bill Laimbeer, Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman? Have you heard of these people? Because these people didn't give a damn who you were. John Sally, they would knock you the hell out. They didn't care. I mean, sometimes they came with fists. They didn't foul out. Okay, so what? I'll be back next game. I mean, so to that end, Jordan was getting, I mean, he was scoring a lot, started scoring to folks. Detroit was like, oh, not on us. And they started knocking him out the air. So Jordan needed to come back with some help. He needed to get some people. So it wasn't until Jordan got some people, got some friends, got some people around him, some support, that he was finally able to start winning championships once he had an actual squad behind him that was on the same stuff that he was on. Because let's be real, when Jordan first came into the league, I mean, guys were still smoking cigars and cigarettes at halftime. Some people were starting the games drunk. So that was a whole different era, one. And two, that wasn't what Jordan was on. That wasn't even close to what, that wasn't his mission. And in that same respect, that's not Caitlin Clark's mission. And I'm not saying that people are on some drinking and smoking. I don't know. I don't know anything about that, but I do know people gravitate to what's beautiful or what's amazing. They don't just gravitate to what's representative. So even if I am a black person, I am a black man, and I see another black man, I may not just gravitate to something just because that black man is saying it. That's my point. In comes Caitlin Clark. And as she comes in, it's like, well, here's this breath of fresh air, his new perspective, new look or whatever. And of course, yeah, she's white. Yeah, she's straight, whatever. And you can make of that what you will. But I think the fact that she also is good speaks volumes. She's good. And I'm not saying that the women who are in the WNBA aren't good. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that with the people who are in the WNBA now, with their goodness, what is their following? You see what I'm saying? Like, we can talk about shoulds, and there are a lot of things that we can say are on uneven keels. But when it comes to something that's built on your own success, your own ability, your own social media, I mean, was Caitlin Clark saying, "Hey, come check me out. Check me out on this game, guys"? And I don't think she was doing that. I mean, maybe she was, and maybe that's how it built up. But I'm just saying, she has a following all her own that she's bringing into the WNBA. And at the same time, we have women who are in the WNBA who are mad that she's coming into it, bringing what could be money for them. I just question, why would you want to damage somebody that could potentially put the entire league on her back? I mean, let's be real. At the end of the day, people are selfish.
Everybody understands her impact and how to move the league forward. But also, the league at large rooting against Caitlin Clark is just an absolute farce. And y'all got to give it up. We got to give it up.
You know, as much as people want to be mad about, how she's being treated, if my assumptions are correct, this is only going to make her potentially better and the league, you know what I'm saying, as a result. I mean, just like it did for the NBA when Jordan came in and everybody was hating on him, and all of a sudden now everybody had shoe deals. You see what I'm saying? Everybody wasn't getting shoe deals until Jordan did. You see? And then Jordan got a shoe deal. Now then Ewing, then Barkley. Then, everybody started getting their own shoe. Then you're like, wait, Pippen got a shoe? Why Pippen got a deal? He on the same team as Jordan. I didn't know you could do that. Then things like that start happening. Now it's like everybody got a shoe deal. You see what I'm saying? Same thing could potentially happen with the WNBA. That's all I'm saying. Huh? It's still a business. You dig? And so it's a business model that doesn't make any revenue. So when I see people like Francesca, I can't remember her last name, but Francesca on the Young Turks complaining about wage discrepancy, especially when you never gave two shits about basketball in any light until there was a white girl for you to focus on. To me, that says quite a bit. And if you're in that sort of camp as well, then it says something about you. It says, one, you likely knew that there was an issue, but you didn't want to say anything until you saw somebody that you thought looked like you. So to me, that again speaks to the selfishness of people in general, and says, hey, you know what? This could have been handled much earlier, but because I didn't see anybody who looked like me, let's go ahead and keep it rolling until somebody who looks like me shows up. Then I'll be right there. I'll be right there, guys. Then it also says that you don't give a fuck about black women's plight. And I mean, let's be real though. We know that y'all don't give a damn about black women's plight from the numerous TV shows and movies that show some sort of weird and evil deeds being purported by some hashtag FFFFFF person who decides, oh no, I have to change my ways because now the shoe is on the other foot. Oh, now I finally learned the badness of my ways. Like we see so many episodes and shows and stuff like that it's ridiculous. Still, we have people who act like that in politics today, who will act like, I didn't know about the issue with the black women until there was a white woman in there. I never would have known that you guys would have got this sort of treatment until one of my Lily friends got in there as well. You see, you do understand. then it just says that you don't give a damn about women's sports. Because if you cared about women's sports, you would know that this has been going on. Hell, the WNBA has been out since, 97? So 27 years to date. So the WNBA has been in effect since 20. You think this is only happening now, or you're just now learning about this? So again, that lets me know that you don't give a damn about women's sports because you just now found about shit that's been happening for 27 fucking years. Lastly, you just don't know how businesses work. The WNBA is a league that's been subsidized by the NBA for the past 27 years of its existence. It's never pulled a profit. Yet at the same time, Francesca and your acolytes, you're the types who go out and talk about wage discrepancy while ain't nobody pulling no money in. You see what I'm saying? What sense does that make? How can you have a genuine conversation about anything when you're not even having a genuine conversation about what is real and what the facts are? The best thing that anybody can do that is in support of this league, but I would say especially women and especially black women who are, doing all this, because the black women are the ones who are doing the complaining that Caitlyn was getting all this press and the sisters rarely got any. And again, I was in on that as well because I felt in certain instances she was getting accolades that she didn't outright earn. But that's a whole different story versus, and that's why a lot of these conversations are multi-layered, because on one level you can say, well, yes, it is bad with the amount of press that she's getting for the things that she didn't earn. But on the other side, I can say that it's good for some of the press that she gets because, well, some of that stuff is earned. Whereas on the other hand, there are some who say, I don't like any of the press. The only reason she's getting press is because she's white. And I think that's not a good way to slice that. You have to be more intricate in your cuts, so to speak, when you're trying to make some of these, when people want to make some of these points. But getting to my point, I'd say the best thing that black women can do is help these female ballers. Help them out. How do you help them out? Act like you are an actual fan of something. Act like you care about something. Shut your mouth. Turn on the TV. Turn on the app. Follow them. Learn the teams that are in the league. Learn the teams that's in your city. Learn the players that's on that team. Get you a favorite player on that team. Buy their jersey. Talk about that player with other people who also enjoy that player. Talk about that team with other people who also enjoy that team or rivals of that team. Talk about that team and your favorite player with your man. Get him involved into it. Do those sorts of things instead of just saying that you care about the outcomes. Because if all you care about is the outcomes, then you don't give a damn about what it takes to get there. And that's not a fair argument to be having. I mean, because otherwise you are just like they said in Shakespeare, or as Shakespeare would say, a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. With that said, will you be watching more WNBA games? Will you take your ass to an actual game and, learn the mascot of the team in your city? At least, because if you aren't looking to lift one of your exquisitely and expensively manufactured and manicured fingernails to help them out, then you really can't say shit either. And that is a wrap for today's episode. Don't forget to cruise by our merch shop at theblackmanshow.com for some exclusive gear. You can also catch me on all social platforms that Show the Black Man, or join the conversation in our Facebook group or page, both named The Black Man Show. Now, if you're feeling what I'm giving, help your boy keep it in the building with the HBO special. Yep, that's right. Help your brother out. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe, and spread this word by sharing this with your friends. Want to drop me a line directly? Shoot me an email at tbs@theblackmanshow.com. Now, we will see you on the next one. Be good to each other. Until then, peace. And I'm out.